Welcome everybody to another episode of Let's Make Dinner, your audio library of amazing dinner recipes you can always get on the table. I'm your host, Susie Weinrich. What's good, everybody? So if you're listening to this episode in real time, then it's either back to school day or it's back to school time for you. For us, our kids went back to school on Wednesday, and the house has been very, very quiet ever since. So now that we're getting back into the rhythm of schedules and running to soccer practice and swim practice and basketball practice and all of the things, dinner time gets the shaft, basically. So what we need now, and I think you're the same if you've got kids, you need easy, quick recipes that are still delicious and nutritious for your family. So that's kind of what we're focusing on today. We're making something called a Pesto Lasagna Skillet. The nice thing about this is that you get flavors of a full lasagna, but it is made in a skillet. It's made super quick, like 30 minutes, and it is delicious with very few dirty dishes. So I hope that you like this recipe and that you'll make it for dinner. If you do and you love it, give it 5 stars on the actual recipe card and leave me a little comment that you listened to it here on this podcast. As for tips and tricks today, the only thing I want to talk about really quick is the pesto. Obviously, this recipe has a pesto lasagna skillet. And when you're looking for pesto, if you aren't going to make fresh pesto, which actually I will link a fresh pesto recipe right in the show notes for you, it's actually pretty easy. It's just done right in a blender. If you're not going to make your own pesto, then buy one at the store, and your best bet is going to be buying a refrigerated pesto. It's going to have the best flavor. It's going to be the freshest. Now, if you want to go shelf stable, what I recommend is that you look at the ingredients of the pesto bottles and make sure that basil is one of the first at least 3 ingredients. The other thing you're going to need is a large skillet. So whenever I make a skillet lasagna, I use my all-clad pan, and it is not nonstick. You could use a nonstick pan, but it's not necessary. It's about a 12-inch pan. It's got about 2 to 3 inch high sides, and then it has a nice tight-fitting lid. You definitely need a pan with a lid to trap that heat and steam to cook the lasagna noodles. With all of that said, let's go ahead and get into the full recipe for Pesto Lasagna Skillet. The first thing you're going to do is actually toast a 1/4 cup of pine nuts. We're going to actually add those at the end, but before you put anything in your skillet, you want to toast those nuts. So take that large skillet, put it over low heat, pop a 1/4 cup of pine nuts, and just roll them around in the pan until they start to brown, not burn, just brown, and they'll start to smell really nutty. They actually, to me, when pine nuts start to toast, they smell like bacon. Take them out of the pan and just set them aside in a little bowl. We'll use those later. Now set that empty skillet back over medium heat, and you're going to cook and crumble 1 pound of Italian sausage. You can use hot, mild, sweet, whatever bulk Italian sausage you want. Go ahead and use that. Now, after that's browned and nice and crumbled up, you're going to drain any excess grease from the pan. Now to that, you're going to add a 1/2 cup of chopped onions, 2 chopped garlic cloves, 1 teaspoon of dried oregano, and a 1/4 teaspoon of kosher salt to the pan. Saute that around for about 4 to 5 minutes. Now it's time to get things going. You're going to need to add 1 3/4 cup of water, a 15-ounce can of diced tomatoes that has been drained, and then about 6 to 7 ounces of the pesto to the pan. You're going to give that a really good stir and then bring it to a boil over medium-high heat. As soon as that starts boiling, you're going to take 8 to 10 lasagna noodles and break them up into 1 or 2 inch pieces and start nestling them down into that hot liquid. Now for the lasagna noodles, you can use either oven-ready noodles or you can use traditional noodles. Both work. But what I'll say is that I usually prefer the traditional noodles because they're just a little bit thicker and heartier than the oven-ready ones. After you have all of the lasagna noodle pieces nestled down into that liquid, you're going to lower the heat to low and you're going to pop that lid on the pan and cook for 12 minutes. After that 12 minutes, you're going to open that pan back up and you're going to take a half a cup of ricotta and you're going to just dot spoonfuls all over the top of the lasagna, and then you can kind of shimmy them down into the sauce. Then top that with about 4 ounces of shredded mozzarella all over the top. You'll pop that lid back on and cook for an additional 10 minutes. After that 10 minutes, you remove the lid, remove that pan from the heat, and just let it sit for about 5 minutes. Then right before serving, you will garnish it with those toasted pine nuts, and it's ready to eat. So you can serve this up with a really nice side salad and some garlic bread, and you are good to go. You have a really easy and quick dinner that's perfect for a weeknight, but also delicious enough for a weekend family dinner. As always, I will link this full recipe for you in the show notes so that you can take a look at it, you can print it, you can pin it to save the recipe, and hopefully make it for dinner. So until next time, I hope this episode of Let's Make Dinner makes your dinner time a little easier. See ya! All right, now it's time for your weekly double dip. And in the double dip, we just go over the recipe that we are going to make next week on the podcast so that you can have the ingredients you need to cook along with me every Thursday. So next week, we have more of a side dish that we're making, but such a good side dish. We're making Instant Pot Refried Beans. If you've never made your own refried beans, this is your opportunity. It's amazing. Highly, highly recommend. You don't need much to make them, so let me tell you what you're going to need to grab. You're going to need about 1 pound of dry pinto beans, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, a white onion, some garlic cloves, 1 jalapeno, 1 tablespoon of chicken base. Chicken base is kind of like chicken bouillon, but way more flavorful. You can find it in the soup aisle by the bouillon, but it usually comes in a tub or a jar, and we like the Better Than Bouillon brand. From your spice cabinet, you're going to need cumin, onion powder, and kosher salt, and a bay leaf. You need 4 cups of chicken broth, some water, and then a fresh lime. And then, of course, you'll need an Instant Pot. So if you plan to make this, it goes great with any kind of Mexican dinner. Enchiladas, burritos, tacos, quesadillas, any kind of Mexican dinner where you would serve rice and beans on the side. I hope you'll join me next week to make these Instant Pot refried beans.